Hello, this is episode 8.0. It's really late in the night, but I thought I'll finish an episode before I go to bed. That's why I'm look so tired. It's the end of the day for me. So, this is so I entered my middle school years, and this was by far my most favorite year in my middle school years. Remember, in my elementary school years, I said the age 8 was my favorite, and in the middle school years, age 10 was my favorite. There's so many wonderful, great, life changing, impactful things, positive, impactful things that I experienced this year that I think there'll be a lot of episodes 10.1, 10.2, etc., etc. So, anyway, before, after my, the age 9 was like very, very tumultuous. I somehow got through it. But for age 10, what my dad did is so that my friend Lakshmi gave this idea of revising ahead of time before actually joining school. So my dad also thought that's a wonderful idea. So he got me all the textbooks. He couldn't get me maths, unfortunately. That was not available. But he got me general knowledge, which I really liked. And a couple of other textbooks were available. English. There used to be English, proper English, and then there would be a storybook, and it was called non-detail. I always wondered why it was called non-detail, because actually that was a detailed story, so that should have been called the detail. So I don't know why it was called the non-detail, but anyways, so I read the full non-detail book because I loved reading and it was a story, so I read that. And I also started, I think I almost finished like the first three to four chapters of the general knowledge book. I remember that the first chapter was about camouflage. That's the first time I read about camouflage. I knew a little bit about it from Tinkle and such, but that was the chapter. So my dad said, like, highlight everything, and I'll quiz you. And he used to quiz me, and it used to be fun. I used to read the chapter and he used to like quiz me. I really enjoyed that time, and it was the summer holidays, so there was no pressure to learn at a certain pace, or I was learning at my own pace. It was a really great bonding experience for my dad and I. My dad also was very pleased about how diligently I was keeping up with the preparing ahead of time for the next year. So the year started. My mom, ever since I was in third grade or something, I remember that I had really long hair, and I would wear braids like tied up like that. So she always wanted to cut my hair short, and she felt that somehow with the long hair, she associated that with maybe I was quiet, and maybe so quiet and introverted, perhaps a little bit low in confidence and self-esteem. She felt maybe because of the way you dress, like I was, very traditionally. So she had a Keralite co-worker, and who was also a lecturer, and she was almost finishing up her PhD. They had both begun their PhD shortly, one behind the other. So she was more ahead because she started it a little bit earlier than my mother, and also she didn't have the setback of changing the guides. So that co-worker who was also a lecturer, she had two daughters. So the older child was 1 year younger than me, her older child. Her name was Rashmi. And my mother would always compare, not compare, but she would take her as an example. She would say, "Look at Rashmi, she's so confident." And somehow she was big on uh, uh, daughters, girl children having that confidence and that boldness and that ability to speak up. So when I described that she used to compare, it sounds bad, but actually it was not in that sense that it's not like she just said be like her, but it was an example of how a confident child is. So she worked very very hard to empower me, and I think she was very observant like me, and she realized that I was very shy, very introvert, hardly spoke, hardly spoke. And I mean, there would be days that would go by where I would probably speak maybe 1 2 sentences at the max. So I was mostly in the observant mode. So she thought maybe, like, kind of a haircut, and that will make me feel different, feel like a different personality, maybe not so subdued and submissive. But I had long hair and I didn't want to cut it, so I would always resist it. But as I entered my fifth grade, I thought that you know what, I think I should be okay with the change. So finally, because I was also around that period of time, I had gone through so much. I think I was just sick and tired myself of being so quiet and so introvert. But I just didn't know how to get out of it. I didn't know how to be outgoing. I was very timid, I would say, and I didn't know how to get out of the timidity. So I thought, okay, why not we try this? So I had really, really long hair. It came up to my thighs, almost to my knees, definitely to my thighs, and I really liked long hair. But I said, I finally agreed to get a haircut. Um, so we went to this, and a lot of people go there now. Not anymore, but a lot of my age group friends eventually started going there. And the parlor still exists. It's called China. And everybody who's my age in Hyderabad knows, like April. They were Chinese immigrants. Surprise. It's called China, the beauty parlor. So anyways, April was very young. She was hardly like 21 or something, and now she's like a very old lady. But then she gave me my haircut, my first haircut, as in, like, literally cut like 2 feet worth of hair. I felt like, I remember she put it in a ponytail and then she chopped it off and she showed it to me like 2 feet worth. And I felt so bad. I felt like crying, but I did willingly sign up. And then she gave me a U cut. And I saw the haircut and I was surprised. I kind of liked it and I felt like a new person. Then next day I felt very shy to go to school. I remember I was super shy to go to school because I was like, it was so different. Like, until then I had braids like this. And but anyway, I was late also that day. So I entered school and my teacher immediately looked up and she said, "Wow, you look so nice in the haircut." And everybody gave me a lot of compliments that I looked very nice in the haircut. I never had long hair after that, but it was various versions. It was not this hairstyle, but it was a U cut, more like a child's hairstyle. So that was one incident. I did feel a little different, but I was still timid, but I think at this point, I wanted to come out of that. I wanted to speak up for myself, but I had no tools. I didn't know how to do that. There was nobody to uh, teach me how to actually, you know, start talking to people uh, comfortably. I was actually very uncomfortable to talk to people, as bizarre as it sounds, I was. So, around this time, one amazing incident or event, it's not an incident, it's an event that I'll forever, forever, forever remember for the rest of my life, and I'll cherish it so much. Is we got to spend a weekend with back then one of the, I think he was the richest, if not one of the richest, wealthiest men in India. The he was a billionaire, I think, even back then. So the king of good times, as he's called, Vijay Mallya. So how did that happen? So my dad used to work for United Breweries, and and so obviously it was owned by uh, Vijay Mallya's dad, Vittal Mallya, and he was almost actually he Vittal Mallya eventually passed away that year actually. So he had pretty much handed over the company to Vijay Mallya. By that year, Vijay Mallya had apprenticed under his dad. My dad used to work for Vittal Mallya, and then eventually started working for Vijay Mallya. He knew Vittal Mallya very, very well, actually. And what happened was Vijay Mallya had just begun getting into uh, uh, race car, participating in F1 type. Of course, Formula One didn't exist in India then, but there were several um, Grand Prix happening. So there was a huge Grand Prix that happened in a place called Sholavaram, near Madras, every year, and it was pretty well attended. So interesting part was only foreign race car drivers took part in that. They would come from various, European countries mostly, and people used to come from um, US also actually, and they used to participate in that. So Vijay Mallya was friends with one of the. He was more like a race car enthusiast, and I think he was into racing himself a while ago. His name was Bob Farnley, and so Bob, the previous year, Bob Farnley had brought a car with him from. He was British. He had a wife also, I think. He was with a girl, so I'm assuming. I'm assuming that was his wife, probably a girlfriend. I don't know, but he was with a girl. So like the previous year, he had bought a car, and the famous race cars, I think, were called Ensigns. That was the, I don't know if it's a brand or it's a model, but they were called Ensigns, the race cars. And Vijay Mallya had won. He drove it himself. He got trained. He got the best race car driver at that time, who was a U.S. gentleman. I think his name was Jim Crawford, I think. Jim Crawford. And so he had trained under him, and he actually won the race the previous year. So this year he wanted to repeat that performance. So what he did is, he built a huge. He he just bought. I mean, he was the richest man in India back then, one of the richest. I think the top three for sure. So he bought a huge, many acres of land in Warangal. He just bought it, and then they built a race course to practice for the actual race that was going to happen, Sholavaram. And now that he got a kick last year, he won it. He wanted his own ensign car. He wanted his own car. So he actually purchased the latest model, I guess, of the ensign car through this Bob Farnley, who was going to get the car. So the car had arrived at the port and it was going to come to Warangal. So, and basically Vijay Mallya was going to do his practice there. And so obviously there were race car drivers from all over the world with their girlfriends, wives. There was a Danish person, there was a Swiss person, there was a French person, and of course there was this famous Jim Crawford or Tim Crawford from US. He was there. And Bob Farnley was a very good friend of Vijay Mallya's. He was there with his wife or girlfriend, with a lady. And Vijay Mallya himself was there with his girlfriend, who he eventually married. And if you look at Wikipedia, her name shows up as Samira, but her name was not Samira. Actually, she was a Muslim lady. Her name back then was Sakina, actually. She was Sakina, and then after marrying him, or just before marrying him, she changed her name to Samira. But actually she was Sakina, and she was Siddharth Mallya's mom. But back then they were dating. And I think, she was there. And so of course that was the primary purpose. But they invited a few of their top marketing people as like a incentive, because Vijay Mallya really loved to give everybody a good time. Of course, he's called the king of good times, and of course, he was the my dad was like that in personality, although obviously at a much smaller scale. So I think my dad couldn't have asked for a better company to work for. Such a flamboyant and generous person as Vijay Mallya. So they invited the most valuable players, the MVPs, whoever the regional heads who made the topmost sales. And like I said, my dad was very good at his job. So his division, his region, he was responsible for the southern region, and had really grossed a lot of, like, it was always on an uptick, sales, because of my dad. So it was like kind of like a reward. They actually invited my dad and my mother actually, but my mother was my mom was very grounded. Like she was very educated. She hadn't had gotten her PhD yet, but she had her BA, MA, B.Ed, M.Ed. She had a lot of degrees. She was very intellectual and she was very grounded. So she wasn't, personality wise, my dad was always up for a good time, like flamboyance. And my mom was complete opposite in that respect. She always liked to keep things low key. Sort of, both my parents were very down to earth, mind you. Neither of them was snooty or snobbish, but my dad liked to splurge and enjoy, and my mother never stopped him from doing that. But she herself, she liked to always keep things understated, and she was not very showy and flamboyant. Her style was very different. It was very, she connected with people more at an emotional level, more at an intellectual level. And my dad connected with people by giving them a good time, making them have fun, being generous. So it was a different ways of connecting, but both of them were very connected to people and in their own way. So she totally wouldn't have enjoyed this gathering at all, which was just like a nice, fun party, like for the people who were not actually, practicing for the races. It was just a way of them saying thank you to their topmost employees. So, of course, there were the race car drivers and people involved with that, and their wives or girlfriends. Some of them, many of them were single. And then there were these top performers, and their wives or, girlfriends were invited. Back then, interestingly, there was no word called girlfriend. And it is not very long ago, but seriously, in India, nobody knew the word girlfriend. They used to call them lover, which is so silly. So if you had a boyfriend or girlfriend, they would say that they're lover. I think they didn't know the full meaning of lover, but anyways. so so she declined. She didn't want to come, but my dad didn't wanted to make use of it. So he said, "Can I?" He asked them, "Can I bring my children?" This, and they said, "Of course, yeah, you can bring your children." But so he took my brother and me along, and literally we were the only two kids in the entire camp. But this is an experience I'll remember forever and ever. Like, imagine being treated by the wealthiest man in all of India, like spending a weekend. And it was not a large gathering, it was only like 20 people. That's it. But they had erected, like, they had made a whole race track for the practice. And then they made a makeshift tent. And when I say tent, don't imagine a tent. Imagine like literally like a house, just made of tent material, with rooms and bedrooms. So there was an huge theater section in the tent, all air conditioned and plush carpet. It didn't feel like a tent at all. so so it was more like a many roomed, like makeshift large tent with several rooms and sections. And then there was a huge dining area, again with plush carpet and silverware and all kinds of stations there with noodles and Italian and a continental and Indian. And then there was also a couple of bedrooms. Like, actually they had about 5 bedrooms, all air conditioned with attached bathrooms, and toilets. Very nice, very plush. There was a common powder room, makeshift, luxurious can be. There were chandeliers in the tent everywhere. There was air conditioned in every room of the tent, and there was carpet, and of course there was a grand buffet, and there was a bar section also, and there was an indoor-outdoor sitting room kind of thing, all within this tent. And it was just the 20 of us, and we were part of this 20 people who got to stay there for the day. We went very early in the morning, and I think we returned late night. We didn't sleep over because we were kids, and my mom made it. We were actually invited for the whole weekend. I just wish we stayed, but my mom was uncomfortable because she felt maybe there'll be adults drinking, and she didn't want us, my brother or I, exposed to that, especially me as a little kid. I was literally the only kid. So so we were invited to that. It was something else. I'll remember that experience for my whole life. And that's the first time I actually saw so many like foreigners, like white people. And they were all like sunbathing, and I didn't understand why they were out in the sun, just lying in their like swimsuits. And there was one lady, I think she was this one of their girlfriends or wives, and she was Swiss, I remember, and she had short blonde hair, and but her blonde hair was actually not, she was not naturally blonde. She had like dyed it. So I think she had been in India for a while. So this part of it was black. She was actually a brunette who had dyed her hair. And she was sunbathing, she was lying down, and they kept wondering what was wrong with her, because there was a patch here that was black, and then it was all like platinum blonde hair. It was short. And when I first interacted with her, I didn't see the patch, but when she was lying down sunbathing, I saw the patch. I got so scared, and I remember I thought it was cancer. I thought she had cancer. I didn't realize it was, I thought she was naturally blonde. Um, and I always, in movies and all, for me, like, foreigners, like, white people, I didn't realize that they could be brunettes too, and I didn't understand that they would be dyeing their hair. So back then nobody did highlighting or anything. You were what you were, like, people, and my parents were young, nobody had started dyeing their hair, so I had no idea that she had dyed her hair platinum blonde. So I was very worried, and I kept wanting to, like, tell her, or tell my dad, or somebody, but of course I was very shy and I was timid, so obviously I didn't tell, but I kept staring and staring at it. I remember it was so funny. Then the ensign car came, and everybody drooled over it, and everybody took a test run in it. My dad and my brother also went in that. And so this was just a few days before he left, for literally 2 or 3 days before he left for the Sholavaram race, which was going to be on February 7th, and that was my brother's birthday. So he was so generous. This car was coming from the port. Okay, so it was getting tuned up at another at an auto shop which sold cars and other automobiles. So he literally asked some of his favorite employees. He said, "Oh, by the way, like, do you want a car?" Like, he literally, this happened in front of my eyes. I'm not kidding. So he's like, "Hey, what car do you want? What car do you want?" And they just picked whatever car they wanted, like, not a race car, of course. Somebody said, "Oh, I would like a Fiat, or I would like a Ambassador, or whatever." He's like, "Oh, okay, just," and then he just told them, "Oh, while you're picking up the race car, pick up a Fiat for this guy and an Ambassador for this guy." It was like shocking. Like, he was not just, I know people think he's like he is flamboyant, but he was very generous, like really, really generous with his employees and his friends. Like, I saw it myself. It was like shocking how generous he was. He was just giving like cars as gifts away to his friends, and to his best employees. So at that point of time, he found out that my brother's birthday was coming up. So he told my dad, he said, "Purnia, why don't you pick up the young man a vehicle too?" And then my dad was like, "No, no, no, I can't do that. He's only 16. He's just turning 16. So he can't drive a car." and then he's like, "Yeah, but he can drive a moped." He's like, there's like, "Go ahead, like, gift him a moped, do it. Young boy should have fun, like, do it." So he sent, actually, my dad's very good friend until he passed away, Dheeraj. Dheeraj and my dad and my brother actually went. He said, "Yeah, that is his 16th birthday gift." And not that Vijay Mallya gave the gift, but they got a huge discount. My dad only purchased it, but they got a huge discount because they're picking up a moped. So my brother was really super excited. So they went and picked up, of course, they picked up the cars and all that. The car that got shipped all the way from UK, the Ensign race car, and of course the other cars that he was gifting everybody. And then they also picked up a blue Luna for my brother. And then Then when they came back, he started driving it. He was so thrilled. And I think my dad already told him that he would, he would be purchasing him that if possible. So Warangal is where he bought his Luna. Then they came back. So, one incident that actually affected me very, very, very much, and I remember this for the rest of my life, is so while they were stepping out, my dad was, they didn't take me because they were doing a bunch of, negotiations, picking up this, picking up the Luna, and all that. So, it was around lunchtime they had gone. So my father told this Sakina, who's actually eventually Siddharth Malia's mom, if she could babysit me for the day. So she said, of course I can do that. Leave her with me, we'll take care of it, don't worry about it. So they left right in the morning, right after breakfast, and then they were gone during lunch. And just as lunch was finishing up, they came back. So I remember this incident like it's etched in my memory. And so what happened was during breakfast we had some cereal or something, but lunch there was a crazy amazing spread, right? So, and by this time I had become a foodie, even though I was very picky when in my elementary school years. So there were noodles and there were crepes and things that a kid would like. There was no like sambar rice and things like that a kid wouldn't like. There was noodles and pasta and gold spot and unlimited things and sandwiches and butter chicken and kebabs and everything. All my favorite dishes. There were like so many, like there were 20 or 30 dishes, which was back in the day, it was insane to see so many dishes. So this Sakina, she picked up a plate. She was, serving herself, and she gave me a plate. And then she asked, "Oh, would you like some noodles?" Then my upbringing was so different by then. Like I didn't realize that in their circles, you don't, like how my mom taught me, you have to say no first. You don't really say that. You just take what you want. My upbringing, my economic class was very different from theirs, even though we're upper middle class, but obviously they're the wealthiest people in the country. So it was not like that. So I thought I'll say no. And then I thought she'll insist and she'll, like a motherly figure, she'll offer me. So I said, no, I don't want it. So she thought I really didn't like it. She went to the second dish, and she said, would you like some kebabs? And I said, no, I don't want that. But I wanted them so badly. I thought if I say no, she'll say, no, take it. And she'll force, like typical Indian aunties do. But she was like, okay. And then she goes, would you like some butter chicken? Then I was like, no. Then she says, okay, would you like some naan? No. Would you like some tandoori chicken? No. Would you like some paneer? No. Would you like some palak paneer? No. And I kept, and then she would say, okay. And then towards the end, we were towards the last three dishes, and I figured that, oh my God, I guess I have to say yes. Otherwise, I will completely go hungry because she literally won't give me anything. So it was a very different culture. Like, they're not going to sit and force you to say, take some more, and force you. So finally we reached, like, there were the only two dishes left were Navratan Korma, and we had already passed the rice and we had already passed the naan. So only Navratan Korma was left. And I hated Navratan Korma. That was the only dish there that I didn't like. So she said, would you like kurma? I said, yeah. Then she gave me some and she said, that's all, like you've hardly taken anything. I said, no, this is, yeah, I didn't even say a sentence. So she said, you can sit here. And then she said, would you like something to drink? I said, no. Then I didn't get anything to drink. Then, but she did get me water. But I wanted to drink Gold Spot so badly, but I couldn't say it, and I kept saying, finding myself, no, no. I was shocked at myself. I didn't like that I had that quality. I didn't like it. It was, I don't know, it was quite devastating for me, this experience, even though it seems simple, because I saw how I passed by all these items that I liked, and I kept saying no, no, and I was wondered why I'm like that. So I really felt very bad, actually. So just then, my brother walked in because the Luna and all came, and they came back from the automobile shop. My brother walked in, and my brother was very confident. Like he didn't have any complex that, these people were so wealthy, and he was like laughing and joking with everybody. And then he walked in, and then Sakina told my brother, who was 16, so by then he said, oh, she's hardly taken anything. So she was concerned that didn't take anything, but she really thought I didn't like anything. So she said she hardly is eating anything, she hardly took anything. Then my brother said, and I remember this, he said, good luck getting anything other than a yes or no from her. She only knows two words, yes and no. So I remember that, and I felt so bad. I felt so hurt, partly because it was actually true. I couldn't say more than yes and no to them, but it really, I felt hurt understanding how people look at it. Like they look at you like, you're so dumb, as if you're not capable of saying more than yes and no, but maybe you are not. But I was eating just my Navratan Kurma, and I felt very, very bad. So I said, no, I have to get out of this. I have to learn how to speak, at least a few sentences. Maybe I couldn't be like Rashmi, all confident and like how my mother wanted to be, but at least I should learn to speak a few sentences. And I should learn to say yes a little bit more often, and like so I made up that. So anyway, that's what. And then we came home in the evening. But it was overall, it was a blast. So I think the lesson. There's no lesson here, but there'll be plenty of opportunities in life where you'll get a chance to let your hair down and just have fun. Okay, but so don't ever let go of those opportunities, because kya pata kal ho na ho. So live life to the fullest. If you get a chance, take it and have a blast. So that's what I learned, and from my father, and observing Vijay Mallya, how he operated. It was very inspiring. I know he is like a fugitive now and all that, but I don't care. Like, it was really inspiring to somebody, to just watch somebody living life to the fullest. It was very inspiring for me as a child, and I'll always remember that day. Okay, and next time I'll come back with. So this is 10.0. I'll come back with 10.1.